It's February 11th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with a more tariff imposition by U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump on Monday ordered 25% tariffs on all foreign steel and aluminum coming into the U.S., a move that will irritate countries like Canada and Mexico that supply the bulk of U.S. metal imports. President Yoon's seventh impeachment hearing on Tuesday will largely center on the cabinet meeting that took place before the December martial law order. All eyes are on whether there'll be more hearings, as there is just one more session left on Thursday. Hamas is delaying the release of the next group of Israeli hostages, accusing Israel of preventing aid and Palestinians from returning home. 17 Israeli hostages were still due to be released in the first phase of the ceasefire deal. As widely expected, U.S. President Donald Trump has raised steel and aluminum tariffs to 25%, bringing back his aggressive trade policies. They will be effective as of March 4th. Our Park Kwon-woo starts us off.
U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order at the White House on Monday to impose new 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. The move raised fears over the impact of an escalating trade war. Canada, the country that exports the most steel and aluminum to the U.S., and another major steel and aluminum trading partner, Mexico, are expected to be among the worst hit. The same goes for Asian countries, including South Korea and China, which are also among the largest trading partners, according to 2024 data from the U.S. Department of Commerce. South Korea ranked the U.S.'s fourth largest steel and aluminum importer last year. Trump's latest announcement follows plans revealed by the U.S. president the day before to set reciprocal tariffs on countries that tax U.S. imports. Trump said those measures will be implemented in the next few days, adding that he is unconcerned about potential retaliation. That prompted a strong warning from the European Union.
We stand against unjustified barriers to free and fair trade. We will always take the necessary steps to protect our economic interests, as well as European businesses, workers and consumers from unjustified tariff measures.
While describing the tariffs as unlawful and economically counterproductive, he also said the EU remains committed to constructive talks with the U.S. to find mutually beneficial solutions. France's foreign minister also shared a strong response.
It's not a surprise. It's what Donald Trump did already in 2018, and at the time we responded. So this time we'll respond again.
Trump also warned on Monday of the possibility of imposing tariffs on items, including automobiles and chips, exports that are critical to South Korea's economy. Park Kwon-woo, Arirang News.
Trump continues to roll out his tariff plans as planned and expected. This time, a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum coming into the U.S. We discuss more with Voice of America correspondent Jessica Stone. Welcome back, Jessica.
Good to be with you.
So, Jessica, let's begin with the targeted items. Why steel and why aluminum?
Well, the basic goal here, as it is for a lot of the tariffs, is for Trump to bring back manufacturing to the United States and to lessen the U.S.'s dependence on imports around the world. This is especially important, he believes, for military production and national security purposes. And as your reporter mentioned, this is also the playbook of 2018 and the last Trump 1.0 presidency, where he imposed tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum on the EU, Canada, and Mexico. U.S. car companies, though, as you referred to in your piece there, and airplane makers are very vulnerable, not only in other parts of the world like South Korea, but inside the United States as well, because they can't get their metal parts domestically completely. And they've already lowered earnings forecasts, at least they did in 2018. Domestic steel producers actually raised prices, so U.S. car makers couldn't get better prices with local vendors. And these auto industry in the United States in particular is already facing tougher emission standards, the demand for electric vehicles, and the subsidies from the last administration that encouraged them to build those. So they're already getting crunched in a couple of other parts of the market. And so we expect them to be vulnerable to these as well. Of course, one lesson has already been learned by Seoul in particular, which is that you need to diversify away from major trading partners once you start to see this kind of behavior. That's something Seoul has done. But it is, U.S. is still the largest destination for Korean steel, as your reporter mentioned, and Australia, by the way, is already seeking an exemption from this tariff, even before it was announced.
Indeed. And on top of the 25% tariff announced today, Trump is also expected to make a formal announcement about reciprocal tariffs on every country. I mean, what reciprocal tariffs are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's really hard to know exactly. The only thing we can say is that this concept is basically if you charge the United States a tariff, the U.S. will respond in equal measure. So we had Kevin Hassett, the key economic advisor on CNBC today saying, quote, if they are charging 130% and we are charging them nothing, it's not going to stay that way. Actually, that's what Trump said over the weekend. His economic advisor said, if they go down, we'll go down. So really all we know is that there will be some reciprocity in this. We don't know what goods are going to be targeted. We don't know what countries are going to be targeted. This is a concept that Trump is rolling out. We really don't even have a timeline for when he's going to announce these. So we'll have to wait and see on that.
So more of an eye for an eye move. Now, so which countries we don't know yet will be included in the list. But what about sectors and fields? Do we know which sectors will be targeted next time?
So I think it's safe to look at the major trading partners with the United States as a place to start. So that could be the EU, India, Brazil. You can expect European pharmaceuticals to run afoul of any tariffs. That's a major export for them to the United States. Their aircraft also vulnerable to tariffs in the United States. The USTR has said, or rather, I should spell that out really, the U.S. Trade Representative has said that Brazil has, quote, relatively high tariffs on U.S. autos, technology, electronics, and ethanol. And Kevin Hassett, that economic advisor in that CNBC interview earlier today said, did single out Taiwan and India, mentioning, of course, Prime Minister Modi is due to visit the White House later this week, that issue would come up. He also said that almost every other country in the world has higher tariffs on U.S. goods than the U.S. has on their goods. So not a lot of detail, but definitely sticking with the concept. We should look at major trading partners. I would literally go and look for the list and look at least 1 through 15 to get a sense of who could be next in the crosshairs.
Well, we are yet to hear the reactions from the EU, but it's highly likely they're not going to be happy about it, right?
No, the EU Commission did say that they actually characterized these tariffs already as unlawful and counterproductive. What that indicates to me is that they're going to take this to the WTO, file a formal complaint. They've done that in the past, and let the World Trade Organization sort out whether these tariffs are warranted or not.
Well, Jessica, before I let you go, are we hearing anything about possible Trump-Xi negotiations, the phone talk between the leaders of the U.S. and China? I mean, how likely is it that Trump and Xi will actually hold talks in the near future?
Yeah, I think that's a question a lot of investors certainly want to know, and a lot of foreign policy folks. It's something that our VOA White House team is asking on the regular of the White House team. We pressed them last week for an update, and as of last Tuesday, you recall there was no call scheduled, and President Trump went so far to say that he's in no rush to schedule a phone call. A Trump spokesperson since then has said that Trump expects China to do more to stop fentanyl. We've heard that before from the White House. And on Wednesday, Beijing filed a complaint at the World Trade Organization calling tariffs on China, quote, discriminatory and protectionist. So we may see at least a response from the United States to that filing by the trade folks. It's been almost a month since these two leaders spoke when President Xi congratulated President Trump on taking office on January 17th.
Alrighty, Jessica, thanks so much for your report today. You enjoy your evening there.
Thank you, and you enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate. Good to be with you.
And Monday's announcement is another red flag for South Korea, as Trump has said himself that there will be no exceptions or exemptions. Then how big of a blow will it be this time? Our Lee Soo-jin reports.
South Korean companies are bracing themselves for the potential impact of Trump's universal tariff threat on their production costs and global competitiveness.
Yeah, any steel coming into the United States is going to have a 25% tariff. Aluminum too.
The import tax is drawing global attention because, unlike last week's tariffs, this will be the first time in Trump's second term that a tariff measure is targeting all countries. And Korea is one of those that is expected to be affected as it is a major steel exporter to the U.S. and its car manufacturers with plants there rely on imported steel and aluminum for car production.
Our main export items to the United States are items like vehicles and semiconductors. But if tariffs are imposed, the competitiveness of our products will likely take a big hit.
But this isn't the first time that Trump has imposed a 25% on all imports of steel, as he did so previously in 2018 during his first term. South Korea at the time negotiated a deal with the Trump administration whereby it was granted a tariff-free quota for steel exports amounting to around 70% of the average amount of steel shipped annually to the U.S. As anything above that limit was subject to the 25% tariff, it reduced the volume of steel imports from South Korea. With universal tariffs also expected during his second term, Korean companies had already begun exploring ways to expand investments in the U.S. to minimize related risks. Hyundai Steel, for one, is considering building a steel mill in the U.S. to produce automotive steel sheets, while Hyundai Motor Group plans to further expand local vehicle production there. But compared to other nations facing a 50% tariff, the impact on Korea may be of less concern, according to the expert.
While universal tariffs will directly impact our country, it's hard to say that we'll be more impacted than others as they target all nations.
The government, however, is remaining vigilant, with the Trade and Industry Ministry announcing on Monday they plan to closely monitor the situation and work with the steel industry to come up with response measures. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
President Yoon's impeachment trial resumes on Tuesday as we speak, with more witnesses to testify at the Constitutional Court. Now, it's the second to last hearing, and the question is whether the court will add any additional hearings or not. We have our Oh Soo-young to bring us the latest. Soo-young, let's begin what today's hearing will look like.
Sure, Tammy, good morning. So the court just moments ago kicked off President Yoon's 7th trial hearing with him in attendance again. And the hearing today is going to see 4 witnesses summoned to testify. Beginning at 10:30 a.m., former Interior Minister Lee Sang-min is expected to have questions focusing on the meeting of cabinet ministers held before the martial law declaration on December 3rd last year. The National Assembly's impeachment panel says the president had bypassed cabinet procedures before imposing the decree. He's also believed to have received instructions on restricting the press under the rule of the martial law command. Next, National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik, who served as defense minister until September last year, is expected to be grilled over whether there was prior planning. As both the National Assembly and President Yoon's legal team have requested Lee and Shin as witnesses, the lawyers will directly question and cross-examine each witness twice. For former Third Deputy Director of National Intelligence Service, Baek Jong-wook, and Secretary General of the National Election Commission, Kim Yong-bin, the questions are expected to focus on election fraud allegations raised by President Yoon as a pretext for declaring martial law. Yoon previously said the intelligence service found significant issues while inspecting the Election Commission's electronic voting system. Thus, he ordered the military to be deployed to its headquarters on the night of December 3rd to conduct a comprehensive review.
Soo-young, now the 8th and final hearing is currently scheduled for this Thursday, but we don't know if or how long it will be extended yet. Is that so?
Yes, you're right, Tammy. So a Constitutional Court official told reporters Monday that the bench hasn't yet confirmed whether there'll be additional hearings added to the schedule, which is currently set to finalise this coming Thursday. Now, in order to officially conclude the hearings, the bench needs to hear the closing statements from both legal teams as well as President Yoon's final statement. And this would take around 2 to 3 hours. And given that there are already 4 witness testimonies planned for this Thursday, it is unlikely that the justices will conclude the hearings then. Experts say more witnesses are likely to be summoned as some of the main testimonies we've heard so far have caused more confusion due to discrepancies with previous statements or conflicting narratives between witnesses. While the court has emphasised its commitment to a speedy trial, there's been some concern lately that the back-to-back witness questioning twice a week doesn't allow for much time for a thorough review of the testimonies or evidence. But for now, it seems the court has not yet instructed either side to prepare their final arguments, so we'll have to wait and see.
We will have to see what happens. Thank you, Soo-young, for the coverage today. And South Korea's National Human Rights Commission has passed a proposal guaranteeing President Yoon's right to defense during his impeachment trial. The proposal was passed on Monday, with 6 out of 11 commission members voting in favor after a heated 4-hour debate. The adoption ensures a strict adherence to due process, guaranteeing Yoon's right to defense similar to criminal proceedings, despite the impeachment being a political process. Some supporters of President Yoon also caused a commotion on Monday, entering the commission building to demand the adoption of the proposal before the police intervened. Palestinian military group Hamas on Monday threatened to postpone the next hostage release, citing a breach of the ceasefire deal by Israel. Now, Israel refuted the claim, saying instead that the postponement is a complete violation of the ceasefire. Lee Seung-jae has more.
Palestinian militant group Hamas had planned to release Israeli hostages this coming Saturday in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. However, that swap may now be in doubt, as the militant group announced on Monday that it would delay those plans, accusing Israel of breaching the Gaza ceasefire agreement. According to Hamas armed wing spokesperson Abu Abida, the release of the Israeli hostages will be postponed until further notice, pending Israel's compliance and retroactive compensation for the past weeks. He added that Hamas will reaffirm its commitment to the ceasefire agreement as long as Israel adheres to it. The spokesperson further explained that for the past 3 weeks, the Israelis did not abide by the terms of the agreement, having delayed the return of residents of northern Gaza, targeting Palestinians with shelling and gunfire, and stopping aid from entering the enclave. Israel has refuted the claims made by Hamas and instead blamed the militant group for violating the ceasefire agreement. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz also announced on Monday that he had instructed his military to prepare at the highest level of alert for any possible scenario in Gaza. In response, the Israel Defense Forces said it was raising its level of readiness in southern Israel and postponing leave for combat soldiers, raising concerns over further escalation of tension in the region. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also moved up a political security cabinet meeting originally scheduled for Tuesday evening after the Hamas announcement. An Israeli official said the Israeli leader is consulting with his security leadership team to discuss response measures. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Russia says it has not received any concrete proposals about beginning negotiations with Ukraine to end war. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Galuzin said Monday that reports from the West and Ukraine are more likely media hype aimed at creating favorable conditions. He added that such statements should be backed by practical actions that consider Russia's legitimate interests. Meanwhile, the Kremlin also declined to comment on reports of a phone call between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin regarding Ukraine. South Korea wrapped up Day 3 of competition at the 2025 Winter Asian Games in Harbin with 1 silver and 2 bronze. Speed skater Kim Jun-ho won 2 medals on Monday after winning silver in the men's team sprint event, along with his teammate Cha Min-gyu and Cho Sang-hyuk. Kim also won bronze in the men's 500-meter speed skating event. Now, South Korea added a 3rd medal on the day when snowboarder Kang Dong-hoon won bronze in the men's big air event. Team Korea will look to add a few more medals in speed skating on Tuesday, while the men's figure skating short program begins later in the evening.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. A bus crash in Guatemala has killed at least 53 people, including children, and left several others injured. Early on Monday local time, a bus traveling into the capital's Guatemala City plunged off a highway bridge approximately 20 meters into a polluted river. Firefighters rescued around 20 passengers who were taken to local hospitals. The bus, reportedly over 30 years old, operated with a valid license. Authorities have begun an investigation to determine the cause of the accident and assess whether the vehicle was overloaded. In response to the crash, President Bernardo Arirang declared a period of national mourning and expressed his condolences to the families affected. Over in Romania, President Klaus Iohannis announced his resignation after pressure from opposition parties. On Monday, Iohannis, who served as president for a maximum of 2 5-year terms since 2014, announced his resignation from the role, saying he hopes to spare Romania from further national crisis. He had stayed on as president beyond his 2 terms following the Constitutional Court's cancellation of the December 2024 presidential election due to alleged Russian interference, which had unexpectedly favored a far-right candidate. This has led opposition parties controlling approximately 35% of parliament to initiate impeachment proceedings against Iohannis. To avoid the turmoil of impeachment, the 65-year-old leader chose to step down, with the resignation going into effect on February 12th. Senate Speaker Ilie Bolojan is set to assume the role of acting president until the rescheduled elections expected in May. Over in the United States, McDonald's reported a 1.4% decline in the country's same-store sales in the fourth quarter of last year, marking its most significant domestic sales drop in 5 years. The downturn is attributed to an E. coli outbreak in October linked to the fast food chain's Quarter Pounder burgers, which affected over 100 individuals across 14 states and resulted in 1 death. Despite challenges, global same-store sales increased by 0.4%, driven by strong performances in international markets, particularly in the Middle East and Japan. Overall, the company's fourth quarter revenue remained steady at $6.4 billion. Also in the U.S., the city of Philadelphia celebrated the Eagles winning Super Bowl 59. The Eagles had a dominating 40-22 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs, who failed to claim a 3rd consecutive title. Thousands of fans flooded the streets in celebration, causing some destruction, with authorities reporting multiple arrests due to reckless behavior and vandalism. Meanwhile, during the game, Taylor Swift, attending to support her partner Chiefs player Travis Kelce, faced boos from the crowd and was later mocked by President Donald Trump, who was also at the game.
After days of freezing temperatures, the cold snap is finally easing across Korea today. Under bright skies, we're in for a much more bearable afternoon, making a great day to step outside. However, along with the rise in temperatures, the dust level could also go up high in most of central regions, either earlier in the day or tonight. Afternoon highs will reach around 5 to 10 degrees Celsius in most parts, a pleasant improvement from the bitter cold we have seen lately. But don't get too comfortable just yet. Another round of snow is on the way for tomorrow. West of central regions could see up to 8 centimeters of snowfall. The west of Gangwon-do could see 10 centimeters of heavy snow. So checking on the first full moon of the new year tomorrow, because it is 정월 대보름, might not be as clear as we wish it could be. Meanwhile, despite a shift to milder weather in the coming days, it is not quite time to put away your winter coats just yet.
That is all we have for this morning. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time, 10 a.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.